Okay, so they changed the company name. It's called Chance Realtors, and it's a real estate consulting firm, and it specializes in advertising companies on potential new plant sites. Same idea, right? Job order costing system with a predetermined overhead allocation rate. And this is where you got to pay attention, because sometimes they change the way you compute the allocation rate.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Remember, it's just an estimate, so they got to somehow kind of tie it to the way the jobs are done. So a lot of times they use the direct labor cost or the direct labor hours, because that ties into effort. So the jobs that take more effort should absorb more of the overhead, right? And that's the logic behind that. So let's see. They're saying it's same way, computed as a percentage of direct labor costs, and they give us a budget again. So we got to be careful this time, because what they're asking for, they're not asking for the overhead rate here, they're asking for the direct labor cost rate for the direct labor, okay? So based on the budget, you got direct labor cost of $2,450,000, and you're going to divide that by direct labor hours of 19,600. So if we do that, we'll pull up our calculator.
I think that's 125.
Oh, you have the same numbers.
Yeah, I have the same numbers.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna just yeah. You could have told me that you can do math that quickly in your head. Yeah, you're right. 125. Okay.
Can't do that kind of math.
Not that quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, not division.
Okay. You know what throws the curveball into the problem is it's a problem that's focused on coming up with this predetermined overhead rate and using it. But you want to be careful, because they give you this preliminary step here of figuring out the direct labor cost rate. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you don't read carefully and you skip ahead and you start computing overhead rate before you do this, then it's going to mark you wrong on that first step. So now we can do the overhead rate. We got our estimated indirect costs, and we're going to divide it by our estimated direct labor cost, not hours, okay? Because that's what it says over here, direct labor cost up in there. Okay, so we got to add up the three indirect items, which I have in blue over here. Okay, so we'll add those up real quickly. You might already have added them, but let's see. So that's the estimate of the indirect cost. It's not the same.
Oh no, like the three stuff were different, but it totaled up to be the same.
Mm.
My estimated total indirect costs.
And then I'm going to just use that same 2,450,000 as my divisor, right?
Yeah, 90, I think.
Divided by, just do the math on that, and it's 90%. Good work. Okay. So now we have our rate. Okay, so we got the direct labor cost rate, and then we have the predetermined overhead rate. And give you a little more definition on that. Like I was saying, that's a estimate of what each job is going to get as far as the overhead. Because remember, the overhead pertains to several different jobs. It's just that we cannot trace it directly to each job. So what we have to do is we got to give each job some of that overhead cost when we're costing out the jobs. And the way that this formula is set up is the jobs that have more direct labor cost are going to end up with more of that overhead. They're going to take on more of the overhead. Okay. So just imagine you could have job 124, 125, and 126. And if job 126 has more direct labor cost, then it will get more of that, a bigger piece of the pie from that overhead. Okay. And we're giving it the overhead costs before we've actually incurred those costs. Because the job has to get fully costed before we finalize, and a lot of times we haven't captured all of the actual overhead cost when we're applying applying the overhead cost to each job. We haven't actually captured the true cost, right? So in the end, you're going to see that sometimes we over apply and sometimes we under apply, or to be synonymous, we over allocate or under allocate overhead, and then there's an entry to fix that. Okay, so it's an estimate. This predetermination is an estimate. And in this problem, the direct labor is an estimate as well, because they're going to take the estimated hours, right, of 210, because he estimates 210 direct labor hours, and they're going to multiply it by that rate that we figured out up here, the $125 an hour, and that's going to give you the estimated direct labor cost. Okay. So for that specific job, it's going to be $26,250. See what we have in the budget over here? That's for everything together, all of the jobs that are going on.
Which budget?
The budget's from this icon here. If you click on, yeah. Now we do the overhead. This is where the overhead is being allocated, so that's going to be the indirect costs. You're going to take that 90% rate that you have here, and you're going to multiply it by the estimated direct labor costs, which we just figured out. So 26,250. So if we go 0.9 times 26,250, we get 23,625. Then it's just a matter of adding the two together, and that's the total predicted cost, 49,875. Okay. So far, so good. Now it says, if Chance wants to earn a profit that equals 40% of the job cost, how much should he bid for the root manufacturing job? So basically, we're just going to take 40% of the total cost and add it to the total cost. Okay, so you could put that in. You could say total predicted cost of 49,875, and now I want to figure out what 40% of it, 40% of that number is. So times 0.4, right? So 49,000 times 0.4 is 19,950. That's the desired profit. So we're going to have to charge the cost of 49 plus the desired profit in order to make that profit. So we'll go 49,875 plus 19,950. Drop that in there. Make sure your labeling is correct. And we got it. That's how it works out.